The next grayed out word is LWT, standing for line weight. Now every drawing defaults to a particular line weight that would be important when you print. You can choose to show line weight or not in your drawing while you're drawing. I prefer not to. There are folks that prefer to do just the opposite. Let's just set a line weight, and this one's kind of thick, but it will illustrate the point. This is going to be the default line weight for all the geometry we're going to draw. All the lines, all the circles. All right. Now, let's draw a line. Let's zoom in. You can see the line is pretty thin. It looks like a piece of spaghetti. But it does have a line weight that will become important when it prints. And whatever assigned line weight is going to be used by the plotter. LWT lets you turn on and off whether you choose to show on your screen the line weight. Now, can you see it? There, I just turned it on. I'm going to make it a little heavier. Let's go crazy. All right. Well, it may still not be visible. All right, there's the thin line. No line weight is being displayed. There it is. I just turned it on. Line weight is now visible. It's very subtle, but as you draw more and more geometry, you'll begin to notice it. I think it makes the screen look cluttered, and so I prefer, again, not to use it. So I leave line weight turned off. You'll then notice the word model. That is the equivalent of pressing the Model tab right here on your screen. And if you double click on the word model in the status bar, you'll notice it changes to the word P layout. P meaning paper space. And all it did was the equivalent of selecting the layout tab. Model space is where we're going to draw everything. We're not going to do anything in layout or paper space in this class. And for simple drawings, for one sheet or two sheet drawings, you don't need to use layouts. So I stay in model space all the time. In IntelliCAD, there's one more word called tablet. I don't know if that's available or visible in AutoCAD. We are not going to use any digitizers, also called a tablet, so there's no reason to use this. And again, I think it has limited application. It was used an awful lot in days gone by, less so now. So we're not going to talk about tablets. So for the most part, you're going to use, in my opinion, you're going to use ortho, and you may or may not choose to use the O snaps. I think you'll be more comfortable with the toolbar O snaps in the beginning. So in this class, we'll probably only use orthographic, and I'll try to use the toolbar O snaps so that you get familiar with that particular method. That's the status bar. Now we're going to move on to actually drawing some geometry. You already know how to draw a line, but we're going to do it again anyway. Under the draw command, line is the first option. You select it. A line needs a beginning and an end. So it's asking you to pick with the left button a starting point, and then it's asking you to pick another point. Notice what's happened. It assumes that you want to continue to draw lines from the last location that you selected. And when you're ready to end the command, to stop drawing lines, you can either use the right button on your mouse, which is the equivalent of hitting enter, and enter usually will finish or complete a command, and you'll notice the command line is blank. It's not asking you to do anything right now. But there is one very important thing that I want you to notice. That is a line. That is a line. They're all separate entities. So a line only has a beginning and an end. Beginning point, end point. The definition for a line is the shortest distance between those 2 points. So this looks like it is a continuous line. It is, but they're all individual segments. And I could erase one of them without affecting any of the others. So just because AutoCAD lets you draw forever a beginning, an end, and then it assumes the end of that line is the beginning of the next one, and so on and so on and so on, they're all separate entities. A line is different from a polyline, and we're going to use a two-dimensional polyline, meaning the beginning and ending points will be at the same elevation. And it's asking, you want to draw a two-dimensional polyline at what elevation? Well, we'll just put in 100 just because, and then take all the other defaults. The difference between a line and a polyline is that as we select points, you'll notice it looks the same as what we had done before with the line command. But now notice, they're all connected. It is a single entity. And that is the equivalent of a contour line. And that's why we talk about polylines. Polylines are very useful to you. You can give a polyline some width. You can make it look a little thicker than the other lines, and it has nothing to do with the default line weight. Default line weight is going to be for lines and circles. Polylines can have their own attributes, and one of those attributes is how thick it is or how wide it is. So polylines, very important. A 3D polyline would go from, let's say, an elevation of 100 for a start point to an elevation of 98 as a finish point. And then circle. Circle is the other most common type of geometry that you're going to need to draw for things like well radii, corners between roads, things like that. Circle. Again, draw circle. It's asking you to pick a center point for the circle. Pick your center point, and then notice you have two options available to you at the command line. Notice these brackets. These brackets, I call them chevrons. Whatever is within the chevrons is the default. It is saying, I am going to take whatever number you give me, and I'm going to assume it's a radius. So let's say that is true. We want to draw a well radius at 75 feet. What happened to our geometry? Well, it just went outside the extents of our viewing because I was zoomed in too close. So, is that circle 150 feet in diameter or a 75-foot radius? Well, let's find out. Okay, we want a radius. And it says indeed that is a 75 foot radius. So our well radius is drawn correctly. Now let's draw a circle again. Remember that AutoCAD lets us invoke a command many ways. You can do it through the menu, which is what we just did, or you can just type the word at the command line, circle. One other shortcut is to just type C, which is always my preference. Again, it's asking us for the center of the circle. You'll notice there are all kinds of other options available to you for drawing a circle. We're not going to talk about those just yet. It's asking us for the center of the circle. Pick it. And now let's say that we want to give it a diameter rather than a radius. Well, at the command line, you'll notice I'm still in the command, but I brought my cursor down to the command line and I've picked. I want to type D. You'll notice one of the letters is capital. If you, at the command line, type that letter, it will change the default within the chevrons. So I want to give it a diameter, so I first have to tell it, D, I'm going to give you a diameter. And now notice, it says, okay, I know you want to give me a diameter. What is it? Let's say 200 feet. So it just drew a circle, 200-foot diameter, and let's find out if that's true. We're going to dimension it. And it is a 200-foot diameter circle. That's circle. So we've learned how to draw a line, and to invoke a line at the command line, you just type L. To invoke a polyline, a 2D polyline, type PL. And then the circle again was C. Now those three shortcuts you should commit to memory. And they're pretty easy because L for line is very intuitive, PL for polyline, and C for circle. Now, you can change all of that. If you're not comfortable with those shortcut letters, there is a way to change them. But I think you'll find that AutoCAD is set up to default to those shortcuts. And as always, if you forget that, you should be able to find line, polyline, and circle in the menu. Just think of a polyline as a contour line. Think of a circle as a well radius, and then a line is just a line.